This video is supported by patrons like you. If you'd like to become a patron, please head over to patreon.com/Matt Jarbo. You know, this last week has been really interesting for Star Wars fans. It really has been. When you look at D.B. Weiss and David Benioff leaving, there's always that question, were they fired? Some people said that that's the case, but we have no confirmation of that. And we may never get confirmation of that. But some people say they were fired. Other people say that it was a Netflix deal and it was just these two big companies kind of battling it out, and Dan and Dave following the money to Netflix because it just seemed like the better deal. Some have argued toxic fandom coming off of Game of Thrones and not wanting to wade into the Star Wars camp. That, to me, makes probably the most amount of sense, considering that I do feel that Dan and Dave are a little bit on the bitter side when it comes to how Game of Thrones finale was received. And I get it. There's a lot of criticism that's very valid towards that, by the way. Even though I enjoyed it, I do get why people don't. So there's that. But when it comes to being butthurt over fan reactions to something that you made that didn't quite live up to expectations, it subverted it in all the wrong ways. Rian Johnson is really good at trolling Star Wars fans. And even though I personally feel that his trilogy is done, he does not want to let people think that. And that is going to only cause more ire. But apparently, I think, kind of gets off on it. Right? I do. I think he kind of gets off on it. Because I came across this interview on Deadline today, where it says Rian Johnson says he's still in talks for more Star Wars, and that angry Last Jedi tweets helped inspire Knives Out. So there have been a lot of angry Last Jedi tweets. I know I have said quite a few over the past couple years. I'm pretty sure if you're watching this, you've probably also engaged in criticizing that movie on social media because it just seems to make sense. But it's interesting how he's framing it, and knowing what he thinks about how the audience should react to a movie he makes or something he makes. Yeah, no, I really think at this point he is just trolling everybody. So this is what it says. After Rian Johnson made Star Wars The Last Jedi, he faced angry Star Wars fans on Twitter, including some who formed a petition to have Lucasfilm strike Johnson's films from Star Wars canon. Johnson funneled that experience into his new film, Knives Out. The all-star murder mystery has a character, Jacob Thrombey, who tweets alt-right hate speech online. Now, what is the implication of that, by the way? Are there people out there who hate The Last Jedi that would identify as what you might call alt-right? Oh, 100%. But is it everybody who signed that petition or has been very vocal or critical of The Last Jedi for the span of the last 2 years? Are they alt-right online haters? That's kind of what he's getting at here. Because we know that he actually hasn't addressed any of the criticism at the movie. And again, look, I understand why. All right. You rarely ever get directors who've written the movie and directed the movie coming out and saying, like, I made a mistake. That was one of the things J.J. Abrams did right in regards to the Force Awakens, when people criticized how when Rey came back from blowing up Starkiller Base, that she hugged Leia instead of Chewie hugging Leia. And J.J. says, yeah, I got that one wrong. But Rey was meant to represent the point of view of the audience, and that was meant to be the hug, signaling that they were sorry. But he still admits that he got it wrong. And that was something that is rare, but also very good for a director to do. Johnson will never admit that. In fact, I think he gets off on it. So he says here, anyone who's on Twitter these days, God bless you, because it's rough waters out there. But there's also wonderful stuff about it, he says. That's why we're still in on it, I guess. That's one of the things Knives Out engages in. The current state of online culture, whether you made a Star Wars movie or you have a cooking show, whether you're doing it on there, someone's going to be screaming at you about it probably. Let's put it on the screen in a way we can all maybe have a laugh about it. So he wants to take all the anger, like millions of voices all crying out at once, and he wants to put that into a movie. But he didn't do it in a way where someone's yelling at you because they don't like what you made. He's doing it through the perspective of a character that's going to be an alt-right troll on the internet, who's a teenager who doesn't know his head from his asshole, because that's what it is. That's what it boils down to. Now, he says here that he's still in talks with Lucasfilm to make more Star Wars films, though he's had no news about it, saying we're still engaged with Lucasfilm and we'll wait and see. No updates at this moment, but yeah. See, that line of dialogue right there, a lot of people, myself included, have speculated for a while that really, when you kind of break it down, there's no real likelihood of his trilogy happening, right? I think that if, if he would have been in the position, as good of a position as Kathleen Kennedy has kind of framed him to be, Bob Iger would have actually mentioned his name publicly in the past 2 years, which he hasn't. Anytime Star Wars comes up, they talk about the Game of Thrones guys, so that's not happening anymore, but that's what he was saying. When Bob Iger dated the movies, he dated D.B. Weiss and David Benioff's movies at the time, and those are apparently still locked and loaded. And we know that Johnson had his trilogy announced before the release of The Last Jedi over 2 years ago, and that was announced after Colin Trevorrow left the project, left Episode 9, and J.J. Abrams came in to pick up the slack. So if there was as much faith in love and goodwill towards Johnson as kind of perceived by at least Kathleen Kennedy at the time, or put out there by Kathleen Kennedy at the time, then don't you think that as he was finishing up working on The Last Jedi, finishing up that story, that when Colin Trevorrow backed out, arguably, again, speculation, rumor, theory, take it with a grain of salt, that because Luke Skywalker died, he couldn't tell the story he wanted to tell, which, because of the fact that not only Trevorrow and J.J. Abrams are kind of like students of Spielberg, that they would have been very much similarly minded on where to take the story, and the likelihood of Trevorrow actually pulling from a bit of what JJ wanted to do with it, the stories that he set up to wrap the trilogy up, to wrap the whole Skywalker saga up, was probably what he got to pitch to Luke Skywalker himself, which is, in Trevorrow's own words, he says in his exit, "I got to tell my story to George Lucas and Luke Skywalker." And that was a very clear choice of words, because he didn't say Mark Hamill. He said Luke Skywalker, which, look, I don't think it takes a genius to realize that in that moment, he is referring to the character of Luke Skywalker and where he wanted to take the character. Like if Luke was alive, or as I like to put it, if Rian Johnson didn't hit that fade out effect on Luke in that scene, we would be in a much different position. And that's, again, what I don't realize about that is, with Carrie Fisher having died, why the hell would you still kill off Luke? Why wouldn't you look at that and go, maybe perhaps to end the Skywalker saga, we need one who's still alive? It's a theory. It's a theory. It's a thing that maybe just you just delete that effect until maybe they got the final print and they're like, oh, we left it in. Crap, we shouldn't have done that. I meant to delete, my bad. But it's out there now. We got to deal with it. No, they wanted him dead, and that's what he did. But I'm just saying, if there was that much confidence in Rian Johnson, don't you think that Kathy would have gone to him and said, look, man, Colin's out. He couldn't crack the story. He doesn't know where to take it. He's out. He's leaving it. We came at an impasse. Why don't you take over? We've already signed you to three films. We're already working with you. You're finishing up this one. Why don't you start working on the next one? Why don't you do episode 9? Why don't you bring it home? You've done this. You've set it up. Bring it home. Why didn't they do that? Why did they go to J.J. Abrams? Because J.J. Abrams is a safe bet. J.J. Abrams is 100% safe bet in finishing the saga. $2.086 billion worldwide, Force Awakens. $1.3 billion, The Last Jedi. They want to hit that 2 billion mark again. And I don't know if The Rise of Skywalker is going to be able to pull it off. Many people out there think that it won't even cross 800 million worldwide. I'm saying it's going to hit 1 billion in the first 10 days, but hey, whatever. But it's going to gross more than The Last Jedi. It will. Out of pure curiosity and perhaps even spite alone, it will make more than The Last Jedi. So what we have here is a situation where Rian Johnson continues to troll the fan base. And now he's openly admitted through this thing that he said at an event today. This happened today, just a couple hours ago. That he took the hatred that was, or the criticism, I don't want to say hatred, but I'm sure there's a fair amount of it, but the criticism of The Last Jedi, and he fueled it, or he converted it and used it to fuel Knives Out, where he put a character on screen who's a teenager who tweets out alt-right online hate speech, and that is meant to be a manifestation or representation or an imitation of critics of his work online, because maybe we can find something to all laugh at together. No. if the story about Johnson and Devin Faraci is true, where an anonymous person on Reddit said that those two were thick as thieves, and if you know anything about Devin Faraci and the power he had in Hollywood before he was Me Too'd out of it, that would make sense, because these guys love to troll. They love to get people worked up. They love to get people upset. And now, just kind of thinking back to it, now I think I know exactly how Birth.Movies.Death at the time broke the story of what was going to be the opening shot of The Force Awakens, with just Luke's hand holding the lightsaber floating through space, because Mark Hamill confirmed that one outlet got it right, and that would have been Birth.Movies.Death, and that was a Devin Faraci scoop. And if Devin Faraci and Rian Johnson are as thick of thieves, then the leaker clearly would have been Johnson. I don't think it's speculation, but I think it's a pretty spot on the nose speculation, which means that his rot goes further down than we think. And maybe giving him the benefit of the doubt, because I've kind of been giving him the benefit of the doubt a little bit, that he just told the story he wanted to make. But no, I think it's entirely possible that he really never liked Star Wars, and he got the job, and he wanted to come on in, and he wanted to subvert it from the inside out, knowing what it would do, and then walking away like a bull in a china shop, coming in, knocking everything down, getting off on the anger, and then hiding behind the, oh, me, I didn't do anything. I just made a movie. But that line right there, that comes across as more of the veil lifting. Like I said, don't underestimate him. And don't underestimate Kathleen Kennedy freaking out over Dan and Dave leaving and trying to find a way to put his trilogy in the 2022 slot. Because I still think it's a possibility, even though I don't want it, period. You might, I don't. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you think I'm right here? I'm wrong here? Am I overthinking it? Do I just have this disdain for Johnson that it clearly is fogging and clouding my vision and my judgment over who he is as a person? I really want to hear your thoughts on this one. Please let me know. If you made it this far, do me a solid, type in Jedi in the chat so I know you guys made it. And like the video, thumbs it up, subscribe, all that jazz. I'll talk to you all later. Have yourself a fantastic day. Thank you so much for watching, and peace out.